it's me. So never in my life before posting my recent video have I seen such a divide of opinions about art and art contests. And if you don't know the details, or if you haven't watched my previous video, Billie Eilish is being called out by artists on Twitter, a really diverse and really controversial discussion took place that stemmed from the topic of Billie Eilish and Adobe hosting a contest where fans are invited to submit their fan art for merch, and then just one person will be selected to win the grand prize of $10,000 and the chance to have their art printed and sold on official Billie Eilish merch. And this topic was the vehicle for a broader conversation about spec work, which is essentially a method that some companies will use to commission work, usually creative work, where many makers will participate, but only one or a few are paid for the work that was submitted. And this is a real exchange that is used by companies to collect many options for their project, but it saves them a lot of money because they only need to pay for the one that they want to move forward with. It's essentially like companies getting a whole bunch of free mock-ups, but only needing to pay for one, the one they like the best. And that's opposed to another generally wider accepted method of commissioning creative work, where a company will pay several artists upfront to make mock-ups, even though they will only be utilizing the work of one or a few of the people who were invited to be paid participants in this project. So I went into making that video with kind of a certain stance, but after seeing a lot of the discussion that was happening in the comment section, it did actually broaden my perspective. And it did make me rethink my position on some details, but it also really solidified my stance for other details. Now, this video is not going to be a regurgitation of my other video that will be linked below if you haven't seen it. But the point of this video is to clear up a lot of the misconceptions that I saw in those comments, discuss the divide of fellow artists that was highlighted in that video, and also to defend Billie Eilish in order to take her name out of the broader discussion of spec work. Because if I'm going to be completely honest, I feel like Billie Eilish's name was kind of muddying the conversation, and even in some cases I feel like maybe skewed the comment section a little bit, especially the angrier, nastier comments made toward the art community in general, sometimes even toward me specifically, you know, just the person offering up this topic for discussion, because how dare we critique something that needs to be critiqued when the beloved and respected Billie Eilish may be involved. But despite what my potential bias or position was going into that video, I was greatly influenced by reading a lot of the comments and seeing a lot of the discussion that took place. And because of that, what I really want to say is Billie Eilish is not the bad guy, but she was the vehicle for us to have this conversation, and this conversation is not over. So while we explore this topic, as always, I do invite any artists to maybe get a sketchbook and draw along with this video. I know I'm not drawing with you today, but I still invite you to draw if you wanna. And I love seeing your art, so if you would like, please send it to me on Instagram or Twitter at PaintandSipYT. And finally, before getting started, I would like to thank Literal E, Yuki Yeller, Jasmine, Maury, Fabian, Teal, and Evie for supporting me on my $5 Patreon tier. It really means so much to me, and it does help me out as a small artist. And for anybody else that may be interested in fun art benefits like downloadable coloring pages, stickers, thank you cards, my Patreon, as well as my Etsy, and everything else will be linked in the description. And with that, I am ready to get started if you are. The majority of the comment section in my last Billie Eilish video were in disagreement with the content, or at least they were coming from people who are playing devil's advocate for the points that I was illustrating. And although that video was still at a 95% like ratio, it seems like the people that were the most vocal in the comments about their opposing opinions were almost treating the comment section like their dislike button, with some people literally doing that, making sure to mention in their comment that this video was an easy dislike for them. And I think it's definitely safe to say that if YouTube still allowed public dislikes, the ratio would probably not be so positive. But today I am looking at that as a good thing, because it's rare that we see such a dividing topic about art. And it invited so much more conversation and discussion, and it allowed me to see it from your perspective. But before I go in and highlight the biggest pieces of criticism toward that video and talk about some of the opposing opinions and respond to them, I want to ask a question, or more accurately, revisit a question that I briefly posed in the introduction of this video. And that question is Billie Eilish's name skewing public opinion about spec work in that previous video specifically? Because no matter where people's opinions lied, it was hard to take Billie Eilish's name out of the equation and analyze the situation for what it is. Whether it was from somebody calling out artists for being money hungry, or from someone else calling out the art community for being selfish. In a lot of these comments, Billie's name could not be separated by fans who understandably love her and want to defend her to any end. For example, I would just like to read this comment that I believe was meant for me to take personally, even though this conversation is definitely not about me. This is what they said. "The way you described it made it seem like you didn't like Billie doing this. If there was something wrong with it that you don't like, and that people don't like, then don't submit. Billie is a nice person, and I'm sure everyone knows that. She wants to just involve her fans, which is absolutely okay. She isn't forcing people to submit art, she is asking. Asking implies you have a choice. People who are contesting it are just snowflakes who don't like the idea. Don't submit if you don't like it, it's that simple. I can see why people would hate it though. They want money. Not everyone wants to seek out artists, and that's okay if Billie doesn't want to. There is no set way of finding art. If this is her way of doing it, then it is. People are so fragile these days, bruh. You also say it's morally wrong. There is nothing morally wrong about this. Who cares if they want to check hundreds or even thousands of entries? Then that's fine and it's their choice. It's things like this that make me hate the art community. Y'all are so toxic sometimes for something so harmless. If you want to put a price on your art, then do so. If you don't, that's fine. Stop trying to hate on people for doing things that you selfishly want." So I wanted to use that comment as an example and as a jumping off point for this conversation, because it highlights a lot of the issues that people wanted to discuss. And it also illustrates the idea that it's really hard for some people to look at spec work for what it is without thinking that I am personally attacking Billie Eilish and making this a Billie Eilish problem, which again, it is not. And that's why this video is titled "Billie Eilish is not the bad guy." And to further illustrate my point, I would like to tell you a very quick hypothetical story. Say I need a new logo for my business, and I want to hire another artist to design it for me. Say that I decide a fun way to do this would be to host an art contest, where anybody can join by sending me their best take at a new logo for my business. I pick the winner by choosing the logo that I like the best, and I move forward by paying this artist a commission and by using, promoting, and profiting from that brand new logo. Now, even though everybody who entered willingly signed the contract and willingly made art for me, how do you look at me as the person who hosted this? Would you honestly feel like it was acceptable for me to host this kind of exchange? Or would it rub you the wrong way? Because honestly, I could not let myself do that. I would absolutely pay anybody who I asked to make art for me, even if I didn't end up using or liking what they made. And I just wanted to genuinely ask that question about whether or not you would, think that that was totally fine, or if you would feel weird about it. Because it poses a similar situation to spec work, but without Billie Eilish's name attached to that situation. And with that discussed, I want to go forward and respond almost point by point with the most common pieces of criticism that video got, and respond to the discussion that I saw in that comment section. First off, I don't think I've ever seen the word forced or any variation of the word forced used so liberally in one place, such as my comment section on my last Billie Eilish video, with the most common type of comment that I got on that video being some variation of, "I don't see a problem, it's just a contest. Nobody is being forced to participate." Of all the types of comments that I've seen, I think this one is the most tame and definitely the most well-intended. And my response to that would be, I can see how it appears that way, that it's just a contest and nobody was forced to do anything, because of course nobody said anybody was forced to participate, but in regards to it's just a contest, that was the intended optics for it. And by intended optics, I mean by Adobe, because I believe Billie Eilish does have these innocent intentions. And that's one thing that I did fully agree with, especially after reading a lot of the comments. And I think that response did actually change my stance on something, because going into making that video, I do believe I might have been coming from a place of feeling like Billie might have been partially in the wrong for participating and collaborating with Adobe, which I no longer believe after seeing the response and also by participating in discussion. And also to respond to the idea that this is just a contest, to that I do actually have to disagree, because a contest is an event where multiple people enter to compete for something and one person wins a grand prize. This fan art competition is different because the grand prize isn't simply a prize, but it's essentially a job opportunity. The winner, or the person who submitted the best piece of fan art, wins the opportunity to sell their design. So instead of simply winning a contest and going home with a prize, they win the contest and the prize is the exchange of goods or services for payment, which is why the contract that Adobe enacted for this contest is so extensive, especially on the legal parts. And that's why it includes a clause about Adobe owning the copyright to every submission and not just the submission of the person who wins the grand prize. So not only does the winner sell the rights to their work, but so does every single person who enters. Only they are selling the rights for free, when the winner is selling the rights for $10,000 and tickets to a concert. And that leads me to another common comment that I saw, which was many variations of the sentiment that professional artists who are critiquing this situation are taking it personally, or that they are whiny or jealous or selfish or money hungry. That's another one that I saw a lot. Somebody said, people who aren't all about the money won't see a problem with this. And related to that, other people were really emphasizing the distinction between Billie Eilish fans and artists, making comments to the extent of, this contest is for fans, not artists. Or they wanted fan art, not professional work. And my response to that is, I definitely see where these opinions are coming from, because again, that's what it looks like on the surface, and that is how it's being marketed online as well. But to counter that, I subscribe to the opinion that anybody who makes art is an artist. So emphasizing the distinction between fans and artists is a moot point to me, because anybody who submits their art is obviously making art, and that does make them an artist. But does that make everybody who submits a professional artist? No. But if we're being realistic, many professional artists will be entering too. And when I use the word professional, I'm using it kind of loosely, just to describe anybody who earns an income from a certain practice, and in this case, that would be art. And another important point that I wanted to make is, even if the winning artist does not identify as a professional artist, they most definitely should be and will be treated as one, because of the nature of the contest, and because, again, of what the prize is, in exchange of goods or services for payment or income. And another point that many people made that I absolutely do agree with is, the person who wins is winning the chance at an amazing opportunity. They're winning the chance to sell their design for a very large sum of money, again, income, and it's something that they can use in their resume or their portfolio, something that they can show future employers if they would like to continue working as a professional artist. And it would definitely help kickstart a long-term art career if the person who wins wants that. And bouncing off that idea again, I wanted to respond to the comments who seemed to maybe make this an issue or a non-issue of the individual participating artists. It's not necessarily an issue about whether or not these artists are being forced to enter, or if they are being taken advantage of or preyed on. And although those are pieces of criticism that other people have for this situation, it's not how I feel, especially after seeing the discussion about this topic in my other video. It is an issue of the overall broader practice of spec work, and how larger communities like Adobe, when utilizing this method, commissioning work in the traditional sense in the future could become a little bit outdated, because if spec work becomes more widely accepted, it could affect legitimate art jobs in the future, in the long run. It's about spec work trending in the art industry, and when Billie Eilish started getting called out for this situation on the internet, I decided to use this situation as an opportunity to have this conversation about spec work in the broader sense. And I don't think that Billie Eilish should be personally criticized for this. Again, Billie Eilish is not the bad guy. She was just the vehicle for this conversation to happen. And I think that she should actually be thanked and credited as being a reason why we can have this conversation and have discussions like this. But sadly, I think one of the downfalls to my previous video was, how Billie Eilish's name is in the title and her face is in the thumbnail, and I think that skewed discussion did have to do with Billie's name being involved, because so many people came trying to defend Billie, but in turn some of them may have unintentionally defended spec work as a broader issue, because it was hard for some people to separate Billie Eilish's intentions from the intentions and the ethics of spec work on its own. So friends, remember to follow my socials, send me your art, or just follow me because sometimes I post selfies or sassy tweets. And I hate outros, so okay, bye!